Hallelujah. You all may be seated in the presence of God. Tonight, I want to give honor to our pastors, my pastor, Pastors John and Pastors Robin. You know, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. I want to thank, let's give honor to them. If you will join my hands together. They're an amazing pastor, I would say that. They got a hold of me at the age of 18. And ever since that day, they have never let me go. They've taken me as a son. And tonight I'm here because the call of God that they saw in my life. And I love Pastor John. I love Pastor Robin for what they are doing. Not only in my life, but they are doing in the lives of the people. That what He's doing in your all's life. What He's doing in the nations. As they travel, as they minister. They have a heart of a pastor. And over the year, I've known, and I'm getting to know more about the heart of a pastor, what it means to be a pastor, what it means to be a leader. And tonight, as we are here, I also want to give honor to Bishop Ann. The ministry that she started here at the Rock Church, along with Bishop John, the great team that we have here, Pastor Mary, Brother Ray, all the ministry team, the elders, and everyone that is a part of this house. I want to thank you for sowing and blessing and pouring into and giving into the missions work around the world. And it is through this missions work, I stand here tonight. And I want to be talking to you tonight about God's plan and His promises. I want to talk to you about the hand of God upon your life. At the age of 18, when the missionaries were in Fiji, at that time, most of you know I grew up in a Hindu family. I grew up worshiping idols. And I really didn't know. I never have ever heard the name Jesus. I didn't even know who Jesus was, Brother Garner. I come from a very small nation. And in that small nation, I come from a very small town. And in the small town, I come from a very small village and grew up in a very small house. I remember growing up, there'll be times when there will be winds that will be blowing, just like, the past few days we've been having. When the winds would get up to about probably 30, 40 miles per hour, we would have to leave our house to go and find shelter somewhere else because we'll be afraid that we'll be blown out with the house. We had to vacate our houses. I remember in 1997, I believe it was, where there was a storm that was passing by Fiji, and it wasn't that bad, but we had to vacate our house and go and look for shelter at night while it was pouring down rain, and we went house to house. We knocked on house to house, so somebody would open their doors and give us shelter. And finally, one of my father's friends opens the doors, and we go and we spend the night over there. When we come back, we see part of our house is damaged. Why am I saying this to you? I want to give you a background of myself where God has brought me out of. I want to talk to you about what God is capable of doing. I want to talk to you about the promise of God. I want to talk to you about when God gives you a promise, He keeps His promises. His promises are yes and amen. What He starts, He finishes. He is the Alpha and the Omega. He is the beginning and the end. He knows the end from the beginning. What He starts, He finishes. I remember when I was back in school and I took up, I was going to run and we were doing this competition we have in school. I'm not sure if you guys do it here in the States or not, but back in Fiji, we call it the Interhouse, and where it will be where you take part in some track events or field events. And I took part in because you all see that I'm pretty tall. I had long legs, so I said, you know what, I'm gonna run, and I'm gonna run good. And so I think it was an 800-meter run, Brother Garner. And I'm like, I'm pretty quick. I mean, if you've been around me, you see I'm pretty quick at times, and I move fast. And so I said, I'm gonna run. I took an 800-meter run, and I didn't prepare myself for it. I was like, you know what, I run all the time. I run everywhere. I'm good for this. So when the day of the event came, Brother Garner, I went on the field and I took off. And as a young man, when you were growing up, you're not worried about winning. All you are worried about at that time is you impress some sort of girl that is standing, sitting in the podium, in the stadium, that you impress a girl that is watching. It's like, I can get some attention. So I started off the race. I went and I took off. I took off good. And I look back, everybody's behind me and I'm running good. And it didn't take me long before I start losing my breath. And as I'm coming around and the entire crowd is there and I'm slowing down, and then everybody else is going further away from me. And as I come closer and closer, and I'm like, you know what? I have another round to go around this ground. And I come, and this was so embarrassing that I pretended, and I fell, that I pulled a muscle, and I was like, I pretended, because you don't want to lose. So I just pretended that I pulled a muscle, and I walked out so that the girls that were watching at that time, they don't feel bad about him, they feel bad, and they feel, oh, look at him, he's so sorry, But the fact was that I was not ready for the race. I was not prepared for the race. Some of us, we have a call of God on our life. Some of us, we have promises, but we don't prepare ourselves to run the race that God wants us to run. We don't do the training that we need. I once was listening to Dr. Miles Monroe, and he's a great man of God, and I was listening to his message, and he preached about the 5 important things that a man needs to know. 5 important things that a man needs to know, and that was one of the greatest messages that changed my life, was when I heard it. And he said there's 5 important things that a man should question himself, and there's 5 questions that everybody, no matter who we are, if we are someone that is out on the streets, or if we are a leader of a church or a pastor, or if we are in the government, everybody, the 7.6 billion people that is alive today needs this question to be answered. The number one question that a person needs to ask themselves is, who am I? Who am I? That's the number one question that we need to ask. We need to know who we are. Many people die not even knowing who they are. I remember the first time when I met Dr. Len Lucas, and she asked me, do you know who you are? Obviously, I know my name is Vimal. And I'm saying, yeah. And she said, no, you don't know who you are. In fact, she was true that I didn't know the real Vimal that was in me till she started praying, ministering to me, and I started looking at myself the whole different way that I ever did before. It's very important that one needs to know who they are. Any question that a mankind has, any question that I have in my mind, every time I have a question, I go to the book of Genesis. I go to the book of Genesis. Genesis is the book of creation. God designed us in the book of Genesis. Everything He made, and after He made everything, He said, it is good. Everything He made, everything God created, He said, it is good. He didn't make anything by accident. You are not here by an accident or it's a coincidence. You are made in the perfect will of God. Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11 to 13. It says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. God says, I know the plans that I have for you. It is not to harm you, but it is to prosper you. It is to give you a hope and a future. The question I had to ask myself, who am I? I grew up in a Hindu family, not knowing where I was going to go. I had no idea. In fact, I had no idea that the United States of America even existed at that time. I did not know, because I grew up in a very small community, in a very small village where we didn't have no influence of the outside world. We didn't have no cell phones. We didn't have no communication with the outside world at the time. So I really didn't know that there were other places or other nations that existed. And all I knew, and at that time, as I said, I didn't know who Jesus was. All I knew, there was a thousands of gods that we worship, that we go before. And we will take sacrifices, we will give, and then every time we'll go to the temple, the priest will come and say, bring this offering, bring that offering, give this, give that, give this, give that. Every time we will go. And then, as the Indian ritual, what we'll do is we will beat ourselves up and we'll sacrifice our bodies and we'll take vows before these gods and all. And when I came to know Jesus, that's when I understood what really love means. In John chapter 3, verse 16, it says, for God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. That's when I understood that love means to give. That's when I understood that these Indian gods didn't love me. Because guess what? They never gave anything back to me. All they did was they took from me. That's when I understood that. Because here it is, the Son of God, Jesus, and God loved the world, that God loved you so much that He gave His very best. He didn't care what it would cost Him so that you and I could have a relationship with Him. He didn't see the price that He had to pay. Even going on that cross, the most cruel death that one could ever go through. Love is to give. And that's when I started to understand myself. I had to understand that, I am a child of God. I am not made from no monkey that goes, all the time. We worship a monkey god in Hinduism. I'm not sure if you guys know about Hinduism or not. There are monkey gods. We go bow before the monkey gods. We go to the elephant gods, and we do look like monkeys going all the time like that. We are praying to these idols often. And I didn't really know that God made me not as a monkey, but He made me in His perfect image. That means when I look at you, I see the image of God. My God doesn't have 10 heads like a Hindu God has. My God doesn't have 8 hands as the Hindu gods have. My God has 2 hands, 2 feet, and a wonderful looking, beautiful face. Because when I see you, He said, I'll make you. In Genesis, when you go back to the book of Genesis, He said, let us create man in our own image. That means when I see you, I see the image of God. I see the image of God when I see you. No matter what science will try to work overtime to try to prove that we came from monkeys. I want to tell you that we didn't come from no planet of apes. We are not from any planet of apes. I'm not a monkey. And I am a child of God. Everybody needs to know that they are the child of God. We are children of the Most High King. The number 2 question was, where am I from? Are you from planet of apes or are you from the heaven above? It's just simple. Where are you from? Some of you may say, well, I'm from Florida. Someone say, I'm from California. I'm from Virginia, West Virginia, and everywhere. I would say I'm from Fiji. But in fact, I'm from the heaven above. I may say that I'm from Fiji, but guess what? Actually, I have come from the perfect will of God. For the perfect will of God. Number 3 is, why am I here? Everybody needs to ask this question. What am I doing here? What is the purpose for me to be here? Many people, they go their lives, they're not even knowing what is the purpose for their life. What is my purpose? What am I doing here? I was in Fiji. I grew up in Fiji. I had no idea that the United States of America existed till I grew up, and when I started moving out of, my town, and that's when I knew that there were other nations that existed. I thought you all were aliens. And then there was a time that God pulled me out of Fiji and brought me here. There was a reason for God to bring me here. Often, God will place you in places for a reason. For a reason. I grew up, I was born in Fiji, I was raised in Fiji. I've only been in the States for only the past 3 years. And the things that I have seen about myself and the things that I have seen about my nation was when God brought me to the United States to reveal the things that I was not able to see while I was there. Are you with me? Yes. Sometimes God pulls you out of the places where you are comfortable in. God will pull you out of your hometown. God will pull you out of your mommy and your daddy's house. God will pull you from your comfort zone and put you in a place where He could reveal to you your plan and your purpose, that God could prove to you where you are headed to. That means we need to ask the question to ourselves, what am I doing here? God has brought you to that Rock Church. It's not an accident that you are. He has brought you to the Rock Church for a reason. He has placed you in this local body for a reason. And everybody needs to ask them the question, what am I doing here, Brother Garner? What am I doing here? What is my purpose? When God brought me here, that's when He started revealing Himself to me and started showing me what is the purpose for my life. That's when I started to understand that He has a greater plan and a purpose for my life. Second thing, the fourth thing is, what can I do? If I am here for a reason. What can I do? What do I need to do in order to get into the perfect will of God? What is required of me? What is required of me? What do I really need to do? And the fifth question that one needs to ask is, where am I going? Where am I going? The biggest turnaround in my life was in year 2014, when I had to make some choices. How many of you have ever traveled? Anybody over there? How many of you have ever traveled internationally? You know, the worst part of traveling, and this is my least favorite thing about traveling, it's not the flight, it's not the layover, but the least favorite part of traveling is when I have to pack. How many of you are with me over there? Whenever you got to travel, when you got to go and pack, because you are standing in your closet and you see all those beautiful dresses that you have, you see all those beautiful jeans you got, those shoes that you got, and you just wish, Sister Denise, that you could take all the shoes and the jeans that you want. But guess what? You can't take everything. You got to make some choices. You got to make some choices. That's the worst thing when you got to travel. I'll be traveling to Fiji next week. And I got to make some choices when I'm packing my bags. Because when you travel internationally, they tell you only 50 pounds is allowed. You're only allowed to take 50 pounds. So that means when I'm traveling to Fiji next week, I got to make some decisions. And I don't make my decisions based off where I am. I got to make my decisions according to where I am going. Are you with me here? You don't make your decisions according to where you are. You got to make your decisions according to where God is taking you. Because right now, here in the United States, it is super cold. It is about 30, 40, 50 degrees, and it's cold because in Fiji, I will be freezing to that. Guess what? It is 100 degrees in Fiji. I cannot bring heavy clothing with me. I cannot bring thick clothes. I cannot bring jackets with me. I cannot take boots with me because I have to make some choices here. If I don't know where I am going to pack wrong. Some of us, we have done packing, but we have not considered where God is taking us. And God is saying, you got to go back to your room and see your luggage. You got to take out some of the things that is not necessary in there. Because where I'm taking you, it is not required there. If you pack sweaters, if you pack boots and heavy jeans and jackets, and when you get to Fiji, it is 100 degrees Celsius, nothing that you brought with you is useful. And guess what you got to do? You got to go spend more money to buy things that you really need. That means it requires more from you. It requires more energy, more time, more money from you. But just if you are obedient to the Spirit and you have listened to God and say, you know what? I wish I had obeyed the Spirit back then when I was in the States. If I had not packed the sweater, if I had not packed the boots that I have brought with me, I would not have to go looking for clothes right now. I have everything I need to be in this season. I need everything I need to do what God has called me to do. I have everything with me. So we got to go back and we got to make some choices. Because when you are traveling, you cannot take the 10 shoes that you would like to take with you. You cannot take the 20 jeans that you have in your drawer right now. You can't take them. You only got to take 2. You can take all your fancy stuff that you have, that you want to go and impress somebody there. You got to make some choices. That means when you go and open your bag up, you got to take out some people that needs to go out of your life. There got to be some friendship that you got to let go. There are some things that you got to let go. You got to pull out that cigarette, or you got to pull out that alcohol, or you got to throw those porn movies that are in your room. You got to let go of things in order to go to where God is taking you. You can't take nothing. You don't want to take every extra luggage with you. And with all the traveling that I have done, I have realized, because back in the time, when I first started traveling, I don't know if you have done this or what, but I didn't pack my bags till 2 hours before my flight. How many have ever done that? And then you come, you throw everything in there, not knowing what you need, and you sit on your bag and you try to zipper the thing up as quick as you can and roll out of your house. And then when you get to where you are going, and when you get to your destination and you realize that you missed your toothbrush. Some of you ladies will say, oh, I missed my makeup set. Probably that's one of the first things you should have packed. Or you wanted to pack. Make it a little better. Guys, you wish you had packed those cool looking shirts that you have. It is necessary. It is necessary to know where God is taking us. We need to press in, and we need to know, because there is sacrifice. My life changed in year 2014 when I had to make a choice. And in year 2014, actually in late 2030, somewhere around there, there was this girl that I really liked for about 3 years. And I pursued her for so long, and I mean, every time I go out to reach out to her, and she'll just block me out, and no. And finally in 2013, she said yes. Ooh. And I was in New Zealand in 2014. I went for my vacation to New Zealand, and her family was in New Zealand. And we met, and we spent. I got to spend some time with the family. And on my last day, I was at their house having dinner, and I was getting ready to get back to Fiji, and there was a question by her parents coming towards me. And I was like, ooh, wow. And the question was, how do you like New Zealand? It's a beautiful place. I mean, I'm telling you, anybody been to New Zealand? No, it's a nice place to go. They asked me, how do you like New Zealand? I said, oh, beautiful place, beautiful place. I said, oh, okay. I went back to Fiji. The family came back to Fiji after a week, and I started, I called back, I called this girl back, and we started talking, and in our conversation, I could find out there was something something was messed up over here. And I called, I said, everything all right? She said, yeah, everything is fine. I said, okay, cool. The next day I called, are you sure everything's fine? Yeah, everything's fine. Then finally on the third day I said, what's going on? Well, my parents are, kind of reluctant right now, and they're really not, happy with this. They don't want to move forward. They don't want, our relationship to move forward. I said, oh, okay, cool. I called the parents, respectfully, and I, tried to meet with them, and they invited me to their house, and I went there. They made wonderful chicken curry, and I ate the chicken curry before I talked, and I enjoyed the meal. I wanted to enjoy the chicken curry at first. So I enjoyed that. And I sat down, and I said, what's going on? And they said, when we were in New Zealand, you said that, you like New Zealand, but it's not where you will spend your entire life. I said, yeah, I did say that. I said, yeah, we've always, looked forward, that when our daughter will get married, that, we'll all be in New Zealand. That means I got to move to New Zealand. And when they said that, I said, I respect you and I honor you guys. And I know for a fact, and I know for sure that God has a plan and a purpose over my life. I know what God is doing. And God has not called me to New Zealand. He has called me to Fiji. And I said, if God would call me to New Zealand, I will happily move to New Zealand. But for now, I know that God has called me to Fiji. I made a decision that I would rather stick with God than to choose a girl. Because if it is God, God is going to bring her around. If not, then God is going to bring something that is way better. I made a decision that night. I had to make a choice. Now, when I made a choice, I walked out of that house. I felt peace, but it wasn't like, you know what? This is someone that I pursued for 3 years. And finally, when she said yes, I have to turn it away. And when I got back home, I was just praying, and I was like, God, you know, this is so difficult. And in a week, God started speaking to me, watch what I'm going to do in the month of October. This was somewhere in March in 2014. In 2014, March, and God said, I'm going to open a door for you in October. And I picked up the phone like a young man, got excited, called the girl, and I said, guess what? God spoke to me that in the month of October, He's going to open the door. He's going to change the mind of your parents, and they're going to know this is the real deal over here. All the months went by. October comes, the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, nothing. And I'm still waiting. God, I know I heard you clearly. It was the month of October. Here it is. 4th, 5th, 6th, nothing. On the 10th of October, this is Fiji's Independence Day. We got our independence in 1970 from the British. And we were celebrating. I woke up. I was going to celebrate our Independence Day. And my phone started to ring. And I picked up my phone. It happens to be Pastor Robin. So, oh, hey, Pastor Robin. She said, V, what are you doing? Well, it's Independence Day here in Fiji, and I'm going to celebrate Independence Day with my friends. She said, good. It's a good day to pack your bags because your visa just got approved here in the United States. The visa that we've been applying for 6 years, suddenly God opened a door. Suddenly, God opened the door. It didn't happen because God was preparing me for overtime, and it happened when I had to make a choice. Your breakthroughs come when you sacrifice. Your breakthroughs come when you sacrifice. When I had to sacrifice my flesh, Abraham had to sacrifice his son Isaac, the son that God had promised him, the son that God gave him after many years, and after he received the son, after he received the promise that God had promised him, and now God is saying in Genesis chapter 22 to go and sacrifice his son. And Abraham, being obedient to God's voice, and he went and sacrificed his son. And when he was obedient to God's word, that's when God released everything that was for Abraham. It doesn't happen till you learn to sacrifice. No sacrifice, no breakthrough. Tweet that, tag that, hashtag that, and you can poke somebody on Facebook too. Do you still poke on Facebook now, Brother John? Oh, no more. You do a wave now. Often, in order for a breakthrough in your life, you got to start sacrificing. You got to kill your flesh. Jesus said to his disciples to pick up the cross, to deny yourself, pick up the cross, and follow him. He said, deny yourself. We need to deny our flesh. Deny your flesh. And you got to pick up the cross. You got to pick up Jesus and follow him. If you want to see a breakthrough in your life, you got to start sacrificing. You got to lay down your flesh, your desires, your agenda that you have for your life. You got to lay down and say, God, it is your will. It is your way in my life. It is your way. Some of us, when God brings us, when God pulls us, when you are here in the States and you are getting ready to travel, God doesn't just automatically pull you from the United States and then pick you up and put you in Fiji. Or it doesn't just pick you up from Fiji and just brings you and puts you in the States. There is a process. I had to go through a process. We started applying for my visa in 2008, and it didn't happen till 2014. There is a process for the promise. Write that down. You got to go through the process to get to your promise. There is a process to your promise. The Israelites just didn't get out of bondage, and they had to go through the, guess what? The desert land in order to get to the promised land that flows with milk and honey. Many of us, we want milk and honey, but we don't want to go through the process. Oh, the milk tastes good. The honey surely tastes sweet. We want milk and honey, but we don't want to go through the desert. We want the promise of God, but we don't want to go through the process. We want to get to the pulpit, but we don't want to climb the steps to get to the pulpit. You ask young people what you want to be. I want to be a pastor. I want to be an evangelist. I want to be doing this and doing that. But what are you doing? Are you in the process? They are scared of the process. You can't just jump up on the pulpit and preach. Guess what? Before you preach, you got to wash some toilets. Pastor John just didn't become the pastor overnight. He had to go through the process. He had to go when Bishop John sent him to go and clean those toilets. I remember the stories. You don't just get your promise overnight. You got to go through the process. Turn to your neighbor and say, you got to go through the process. Turn to your other neighbor and say, you got to go through the process to get to your promise. That means I got to climb. I got to take one step at a time. I got to take one step so that I would know what it means to take these steps. So I could see what is going on here. You got to take one step at a time. So you earn yourself, because anything that is just given to you, you don't value it. We don't value things that is just given to us, but we value what we earn. If I had $200 in my pocket right now, $100 that Sister Mary gave me, and $100 that I earned, I will value the $100 that I earned over the $100 that she gave me. Because guess what? I had to earn it. I had to sweat for it. I had to work super hard. Even though the value of the $100 is the same, but I value the one that I earned. Many of us, we don't want to earn things. We just want things that be given to us. Your Father in heaven surely has blessings for you, but He is waiting for you to get out of your comfort zone and start earning what He has for you. You got to start taking those steps and start climbing. You got to start climbing in order to be where God wants you to be. I had to make some choices in my life. I had to let go of things in my life. I had to let go of some very close friends that I really and dearly love. But I couldn't bring them with me where God is taking me to. I had to sacrifice. I had to let go of the girl that I liked for over the years, and then when I sacrificed that, God opened the door. And when God opens the door, no man can shut. Doors that you may have knocked for years, but when God opens the door, He opens the door. How many of you, when you go to the airports, you go to the malls nowadays, when you get close enough to the door, guess what happens? The door automatically opens. Back in the days, you would probably have to kick the door, knock the door, and break the door. But nowadays, it's so cool. You get close enough to the door, and guess what? The door automatically opens. All you got to do is get close enough to the sensor that will sense your presence. All you got to do is get close enough to God that God will know that your presence is there, and those doors will automatically open. When you start walking through the process, you got to go through the process. The Israelites that started the journey couldn't finish the journey. Guess why? They couldn't stand the process when they were in the desert land. How many of you know when you're in the desert land, you don't find no KFC or Chick-fil-A? You don't find no Walmart in the desert land. All you see is the desert. There's nothing there. You don't have the beautiful scenery that you want. You don't have the 7-Eleven that you may have down the road and stop by there, quick stop and say, let me grab a Kit Kat. You don't have that in the desert land. When you walk through the process, that's when you got to start to build your character. Because when the Israelites, when they were in the desert land, guess what? Their character was challenged. And they couldn't stand it. That's when they started complaining. They started complaining and they started, fussing with each other and fighting. It's like, why? We were better off where we were. We don't need to go where we are going. Many of us, we start the journey, but we are not able to hold ourselves together when we are going through the desert land. You got to go through the desert land in order to get to the promised land. You got to go through to get to. Turn to your neighbor and say, you got to go through in order to get to. There is a process. God has a plan. God has a promise. But guess what? There is a process. You got to go through it. You got to go through it. Because when you go through it, that's when God builds you up. He builds your character. He builds your character at that time. Many young people fail because they don't want to go through the process. I love what Sister Tammy does with the dream, Live the Dream, the programs that she does. And last week I was honored, to be with them and talk and pour out, into these young people, where they need to know what it requires. And they were asking me questions. What is necessary to do to be where you are today? What is necessary? They want to know the process. Everyone needs to know the process. So when God pulls you out of somewhere, He will put you in a process. He puts you in a process. And it is in the process that's when you are challenged the most. Some of you are in the seasons right now, you may be challenged. You may be saying, God, I don't see you right now. God, I don't feel you right now. God, where are you? I know you have a plan and I know you have a purpose for my life. But Jesus, where are you? The disciples were in the boat when the storm arose, and Jesus was sleeping in the boat. And the disciples are all walked up, and it's like, I think we're all going to die today. I think we're going to drown. And Jesus is just chilling in the boat. He's sleeping. And the disciples, and these are the disciples, they have seen the miracles that Jesus has performed. They walk with Jesus. They know who Jesus is. And yet when a storm arose, they were all afraid. They were all terrified. They all started to panic. And Jesus came and just spoke word and said, peace be with you. And He spoke to His disciples, why are you afraid? Don't you have faith? When you are going through the process, you need to stand strong. Even though the waters around you may be wavy, they may be strong, your boat may wobble from side to side. You may feel like you don't have nothing going on. You may feel like, you know what? I'm not getting a breakthrough right now. All you got to do is still press in. You got to press in. You got to keep pressing in, because guess what? You are headed towards your promised land. You are on the way to the promised land. It is a process that we got to go through. If you will all say with me, I'm going to close with this. The 3 Hebrew boys, when they were in the fiery furnace, they were thrown into the fiery furnace. Nowhere in the Bible it ever stated that the 3 Hebrew boys saw the 4th person. It doesn't say that in the Word. What it does say is that his enemy saw the 4th person in the fire. It is King Nebuchadnezzar that saw the 4th person in the fire. It wasn't the 3 Hebrew boys. You may not see Jesus in the fire with you. You may not see Jesus in the process with you. But all I can tell you, He is in the fire. He is in the process with you. It doesn't matter if you see it or not. It doesn't matter if you feel it or not. As long as your enemy knows that there is a 4th person in the process. As long as your enemy knows that there is a 4th person that is watching over you. As long as Satan knows that there is a Jesus that is protecting you. It doesn't matter if you see it or not. It doesn't matter if you feel it or not. He is still working. He is still there. He is still on the move. You may be in seasons in your life where you may seem like, you know what, I'm going through this fire. Jesus, where are you? You may have questioned God many times. The answer is He's there, but you are just not able to see Him. But one thing it is, your enemy knows that He is there. He sees it. He sees it. It doesn't matter if you know it or not. We're going to sing this song. Even I don't see it, you are working. Even I don't feel it, God, I know you are there. I know you are still working. I am in this process, and I know you are with me. Every step I am taking, I know that you are with me. You are taking the steps with me. And you are going to bring me to the promised land. You are going to bring me to a land that flows with milk and honey. You are going to give me everything that I deserve. It doesn't matter what I'm feeling right now.
Cause even when I can see it, you're working.
Yeah.
Even when I can feel it, you're working. You never stop, you'll never stop working. You never stop, you'll never stop working. Even when I can't feel it, you're working.
Yeah.
Even when I can't feel it, you're working. Say, you'll never stop, you'll never stop working. You'll never stop, you'll never stop. Come on, say even when I can't see it, you're working. Even when I can't feel it, you're working. You'll never stop, you'll never stop working. You'll never stop, you'll never stop working. Even when I can't see it, you're working. Even when I can't feel it, you're working. You'll never stop, you'll never stop working. You'll never stop, you'll never stop working. Come on, Waymaker, say, Waymaker, miracle working, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Declare it tonight, say, Waymaker, miracle working, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Sing it one more time, Waymaker. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are.
When the three Hebrew boys, when they went into the fiery furnace, they were bounded. They were bounded. But guess what? When they came out, they were loose. They were set free. You may be in the fire, you may feel like you're bound. Guess what? When you step out, you are going to be set free, because whom the Son sets free is free indeed. Yeah. In the New Testament, we read the story about the woman with the issue of blood. And there are a big crowd around Jesus, and shoulder to shoulder, everybody's bumping into each other. And all of a sudden, Jesus turns and says, "Who touched me? Who touched me?" And they turn around and say, "Jesus, you're funny. Everybody's touching you right now. Everybody's touching you. And you're asking, who touched you?" And Jesus says, "Now, I know everybody has been touching me and tapping on me, but there's a different touch. Somebody took the power out of me. Somebody took the power out of me. I felt it. I felt it going." This woman that with the issue of blood, she didn't see, or she didn't pay too much attention to the crowd. She didn't care who was around. All she knew was that if I could just press in, if I could just make my way in and touch the garment of Jesus, I'm going to get my breakthrough. If I will just press in and touch the garment of Jesus, I'm going to get my breakthrough. And the moment she touched the garment, there was a power that released out of Jesus and touched the woman. She got her breakthrough. Many of us, we are scared to press in. We give up too easy. Many of us, we come to church and we don't have a spirit of expectation of a move of God. We just play church. We think church is just a casual place and a casual meeting. When you come with a spirit of expectation, you will see the move of God. We hear testimonies. We see what God is doing here at the Rock Church. It is because people are coming hungry. It is people that are coming with a spirit of expectation. God, I need a touch from you. I need a healing from you. I need a breakthrough. When you press in through the crowd, you gotta make your way in. It's not the most comfortable thing. It is when you just gotta press in. It is like walking through the desert. It's when you just gotta press in. You gotta keep pressing. You gotta keep pressing. You gotta keep pressing and pressing and pressing and pressing till you get to your promise. Till you get to the place where God wants you to be. And tonight, this is what I want to leave with you guys. Even when you don't feel Jesus in the storm, even when you don't see Him, He is still working. He is still moving. He is on the move. Hallelujah. Pastor Mary.